Hello everyone, my name is Jesus and welcome back to the channel. I want to talk today about something I saw on TV. Have you ever seen those shows that are cooking shows and they'll have a dessert making episode where they'll make cakes, for example, and they'll make this fancy, beautiful looking cakes that have a lot of layers. They're very elaborate, very complicated with a lot of fancy structures, but they are very beautiful to look at, but nobody really talks about them as though being very tasty, because the main focus of them is just that they're very beautiful cakes. On the other hand, if you go buy a cake at a supermarket, or if you make a cake at home, it could be one of the most delicious cakes you ever had, but it looks very simple. I think that's a very good analogy to the ideas that the political parties are selling to the voters of what they actually want society to look like. And I want to talk about that today. But before I do, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It would really help me out. So let's talk about how those cakes are an analogy to what the politicians are trying to sell voters as far as how they want society to be. If we look at the conservatives, they try to sell, at least for the past decade or so, an idealized version of what they want society to look like. They'll talk about how they want to take the country back to an era where the United States was the top country, and if they do that, then everybody will be rich, everybody will be happy. But now that they're in power, a lot of people are not very happy with the laws that they're passing, how it's affecting them in the real world, where now the price of gas is very high, how people are saying they can't afford to buy groceries, people are saying that they can't afford to buy a home. Whenever they go looking for homes, they're out of their price range, and people are also saying that they can't find jobs. And when we're looking at this, it makes me think of those cakes that are very fancy on the outside, and that represents the idealized version that conservatives are selling voters of how they want society to look. But people, once those policies are implemented, they're not really happy with it, which represents when the cake's cut and nobody really likes the way it tastes. Now, on the other hand, if we look at the way progressives and liberals talk about how they want the country to look, they don't really focus on selling an idealized version where they talk about golden eras of the country. They talk about functionality. They talk about passing laws that are going to help people get more affordable housing, or be able to have universal health care. They talk about tax cuts that will help the people, the voters, and this makes me think of the cake that you buy at the supermarket, or that it's homemade, where it looks simple on the outside, but in the inside, when you cut it, it's very delicious and you always think about it. So the laws and proposals that liberals and progressives make are actually very helpful to society, because we think about the equal rights passage, which helps everybody. Some people might have been uncomfortable with them at first, but then once those things were implemented, it was something that greatly benefited society as a whole. We have also universal health care, where people hear from other countries that have universal health care, and they might be worried about the negative sides. Like, they might think that it'll take a long time to find an appointment, but the reality is those countries that have universal health care are the better for it, because everybody's able to access health care. So I just wanted to make a quick video and talk about this analogy that I thought about. What do you think? Do you agree with this analogy that I presented of the fancy cake that's beautiful on the outside, which represents the idealized version of society that conservatives sell, but when you cut it, it's not something that a lot of people really like? It doesn't really taste good, which represents a lot of the policies that have been implemented that now people who voted for conservatives are not so happy with. And then we have the homemade or store-bought cake at the supermarket that might look simple, but it's very tasty and people like, and that represents the progressive and liberal ideas that are presented forth, which are functional to society, even though some people might initially not be very comfortable with them. Once they're actually implemented, it provides a benefit for the whole of society. I'd like to hear your opinion about it, if you agree with it or if you disagree. I'm very interested in that. Please like the video and share it, and until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day.